Hello, I'm Hannah, and this is Hannah's Books. Welcome to my first book tag of the year. Although the tag I want to do today, the self aware book tag created by Courtney Farrader, America's Jewish mother, is perfect for the fresh start of a new year, I have to admit that I'm doing it now not because it's ideal for the season, but because I'm still significantly behind on tags. Courtney herself tagged me in her original video, and I was also tagged by Josh at Josh's Book Voyage. Before I jump in, I want to mention an adjacent topic, this week's By the Book feature in the New York Times Book Review. I read the feature pretty much every Sunday, but it always reminds me of BookTube tags. Yes, there is an official By the Book BookTube tag, but I really mean this more broadly. Every week, the New York Times column presents an array of what are usually bookish questions to famous people and asks them to respond in writing. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the questions often ask these famous readers what books are on their nightstand, or who they would invite to a literary dinner party, or what book they love that other people hate, etc. In recent issues, I've found myself incredibly disappointed with a few of the interviews. Two of the authors said straight up that they were not readers. Really, what is the point then of publishing their responses? An anthropological study of what non readers think about readers? I keep a clean nightstand with just a glass of water and the television remote. Whatever. But this week was Alan Garganis, who has a new collection of short stories out right now, and he is a reader. I won't go into all his answers, but the books he lists are from all sorts of writers and eras and perspectives. One of his answers made me laugh out loud. When asked if he had comfort reads or guilty pleasures, Garganis listed a handful of fantastic classic titles without mentioning the authors, and then threw in one potential outlier. Great Expectations, To the Lighthouse, Middlemarch, The Portrait of a Lady, The Bluest Eye, and The Oldest Living Confederate Widow Tells All, his own debut novel. Guilty pleasures, indeed. I also appreciated his answer to the question, has a book ever brought you closer to another person or come between you? Here's his answer. My late father considered the Bible the inerrant word of God, ghost-written by a single privileged eyewitness from creation to revelation. I explained, no, it was actually a lost and found scrapbook, riddled with time gaps and savage violence and contradictory accounts. And yet, having this one book come between us so often somehow brought us closer together. Do you understand? I love that answer, and I think it'll stick with me for quite a while. Well, let's finally get to the questions for Courtney's tag. The first question: what most draws you into a novel or story and makes you want to keep reading? Plot, characters, writing style, atmosphere, or something else? I'm first drawn in by writing style, I think, and then quickly held there by characters who feel like they're alive and who I've been made to be curious about. Although I think there are writing styles that I'm very likely to love, a kind of quiet but poetic style which uses both cadence and imagery well, I fully acknowledge that other writing styles, when used confidently and consistently, also really make me want to keep reading. Next, what is a convention or trope that will immediately turn you off in your reading experience with a novel or story? I will close a book if I come across what feels to me like gratuitous violence, especially sexualized violence, without a clear sense of analysis. It will turn me off enough that I will not read that book unless there is an essential reason for me to do so. Question number 3. What most appeals to you when reading nonfiction and makes you want to keep reading? Just like with fiction, I'm most interested in seeing character development. I think that is why I love biography so much, whether it is straight up traditional biography or group biographies or a combo memoir biographical work, something I've fallen in love with this past year. When those studies of people try to paint characters who maneuver their way through both their society and their own minds, that's what I really love. Still, while I do value having a strong narrative arc with well drawn, quote, characters, I want it to be clear in the book that everything that is claimed is backed up by evidence. And honestly, I want to know what and where that evidence is. In endnotes, ideally, or at least in clear textual hints. The fourth question: what is a convention or trope in nonfiction that will turn you off in your reading experience? This isn't a convention or trope exactly, but I don't want to read about battle scenes unless every detail amplifies a larger story and theme. The Iliad? Fine. Michael Gora's study of William Faulkner? Treading on thin ice. I put off talking about Gora's book more fully here on BookTube, and I suspect the prominence of battle discussions is part of why I've left the book on my desk rather than done a full review. Number 5. Would you say you read more for pleasure and enjoyment or more to learn and exercise your brain? I definitely read for pleasure and enjoyment. Although one of the main things that brings me great pleasure is learning new things. Every once in a while, I pick up something because I need to learn about a particular topic, but in general, even if a topic sounds interesting, I probably won't pick up the book unless it meets some of the things I've mentioned before. It's beautifully written and well structured, where characters, fictional or real, are drawn with a sense that the author understands their motivations, and ideally that they're shown as having some sort of interior life. Question 6. Which type of books are you likely to rate more highly and enjoy more overall? Brain candy books, that is, books you read for pleasure or enjoyment, or brain protein books, that is, books you read to learn or for exercise? Definitely both. I love good cozy or somewhat cozy mysteries, or light novels with wonderfully warm characters and reassuringly peaceful places. And I love to read books that make me stretch my brain, too. Even when I don't especially love the book, the experience of reading a book that challenges me to my limits is an experience I relish. I realize what I'm saying with that last comment is that often brain protein gives me kind of a sugar rush. I often think of what Courtney is calling brain candy books as books designed primarily as diversion or distraction from everyday life, but actually, I don't think that idea works for me in general. One of the things I've realized about my reading, especially this year, is that when I'm really stressed out or worried about something, brain candy books often cannot distract me. As I turn the pages of a sweet little story, I keep stressing out about whatever is boiling on one of the other stove burners in my brain, to continue the food metaphors. On the other hand, a book which is engaging but also challenging will often make me give it my full attention and actually be more calming or distracting in the end. Does that make sense to anyone else? Maybe not. The tag question actually asks which kind of book I would rate more highly or enjoy more. And I'm not sure the answer is always the same, but in general, I think books which stretch me and make me grow, intellectually or emotionally, are books I rate highly. And there are definitely times when I realize that some of those calm little books have made me grow just as much as the difficult or complicated ones. Question 7. Do you have a sense early on of whether or not the book you're reading will be a 5-star read or a book you will really like? Has a book ever surprised you in this regard? In general, yes, I quickly have a sense that a particular book will be a good fit. A certain kind of engaging and also poetic writing style coupled with great character development in the first couple of chapters, makes me pretty sure I will love a book all the way through. There are books that grow on me over time, sneaking up on me more slowly, and which, by the time I finish reading, become books I not only like but love. And similarly, there are books I thought I might love that make some huge misstep along the way in plot or character development, making them fall from what might be a 5 to a 4 if I ranked in stars. But I can't remember a book that I more radically changed my mind about as I went on. There are definitely books I've loved when I've questioned the ending, but as a reader who basically cares about plot only insofar as it illuminates character and themes, a bad plot development isn't necessarily a game changer. I think I have to go back and watch some of the rest of the self-aware reader tag videos again to see if other character-driven readers feel this way too. Number 8. Considering books that you've rated 5 stars in the past, or if you don't rate them, then books you really loved, do you think you would feel the same way about them now? Why or why not? In general, the books I have loved deeply and madly over the years are also books I have reread really regularly and have continued to love. I don't think that would necessarily hold true for just plain old 5-star reads, but it is basically true for my superstar books. There was a big exception last year. Back in 1992 or so, I absolutely loved Mama Day by Gloria Naylor. And when I read it again this year, after decades of holding that book up in my head as a superstar, I was really disappointed. Of course, I might have enjoyed it a lot more if I didn't have such high expectations. I recognize that I have changed and grown over the years, and what seems meaningful to me has also therefore changed over time. And I know that reading a book at just the right moment can make it seem like a perfect book in my head, even though it might not be so perfect if I'd read it at a different moment. I'm about to reread Anthony Trollope's The Warden, for example. When I first read it, it was at a very specific point in my life, and I was craving the gentle style of the characterization. I know others think of this book as charming, but quite a bit more slight than how it sits in my heart, so I'm trying to convince myself not to assume it will have that same impact on me this time around. The flip of this experience is Elizabeth Gaskell's Cranford, a book I didn't especially like when I first read it, at another kind of weird time in my life, which I'm afraid did not jibe with the book. I plan to reread it early this year and give it a fresh and open try, given how many of my favorite readers not only admire it but think it's a Hannah novel. In other words, it sounds like a book I might really love this time. More on both of these books sometime fairly soon. Well, that is it for the self-aware reader tag. I'm not going to tag anyone since this tag was pretty popular when it came out. I know a lot of you have done it, but if you haven't, definitely cast your hat in. I loved thinking through my answers. Thanks, Courtney, for putting the tag together, and to both you and Josh for tagging me. And thanks to all of you for joining me today here on Hannah's Books. See you soon.